Hey y'all, I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Alyssa.
We're your Buttons Babes, and this week we are going to be pushing that how young is too young button.
Sex education.
Yes, it is very important, and it most definitely needs revamping and figuring out. So that has been interesting to watch on the internets and stuff, but something we want to dive into is sexual experiences, and at what point, like what age do you start talking about these things, and like what is too young?
What's appropriate? Yeah, what's not? I didn't grow up with an immediate like, this is how babies are made kind of thing. I think I had like a book that like walked me through like, this is puberty. This is gonna happen to your body. And it was very abstinence focused. And I don't know like when I started to like really piece everything together, but like I definitely heard and like learned many things about sex, about quote unquote, because they were on the fucking bus, of like, I think for a while I believed that a man peed in a woman's vagina for babies to happen.
I thought they came out of butts for a while.
I like didn't know that I had two holes for a long time.
You're like, what is this other thing?
Let's see. There are just many things that are like comical. Oh, for sure. Once thought a baby came from two people kissing, and when a boy kissed me somewhere, I cried because I thought I was gonna have a baby.
I'm pregnant now.
Didn't realize when I would get my first period that it's not this color blood shooting out of my vagina. A friend of mine thankfully got hers before me in middle school. And so she was like, hey, there's brown stuff. And I was like, did you shit yourself? And she was like, no, it came out of the other hole. And then that's kind of, I think, when I like really was like, what's gonna happen to mine?
When was your first sex ed
I did not
class?
have a true sexual education class until I was a sophomore in high school.
Stop.
I went to private schools and charter schools for like middle school, elementary school, whatever. And I also grew up in the Midwest. But like also was in like a Christian household where it was abstinence. You keep your private parts to yourself. No one touches you except for you. And when I finally got that rust-colored day in my panties, I knew that it would be brown, but was like, I pooped out of my vagina. I don't know where it is. It's no longer there, but the stain is there. And it was a really frustrating conversation when I got home.
You're like, why didn't you tell me?
It's not shooting out. Where is it coming from?
The first sex ed class I remember having, I was in the 5th grade, so I'm like 10, I think. But it was like very you got the projector thing with the slides, and you just see like body parts. But also,
we did have one. There was a birthing video in middle school.
What?
And
Why?
6th grade, they pulled all of my grade into the room.
This was at
a religious charter school. And yes, we watched a video of a birth, and a bunch of people threw up, and that was the last time they showed this video, but they didn't explain more to us. Sorry.
No,
so yes, we did see birth, but traumatic, so I blocked that out.
Clearly, the education system has not they still don't have a firm grasp or handle on sex education. It's so important, and it's weird because like my family, my mom had always been like such like a talking mom. Like we talk about things. But that was the one thing we didn't motherfucking talk about. And then I learned later on in life, it's like, oh, there's trauma in my family. There is there is sexual assault and abuse and all of that. And so I was introduced like on my own accord / hanging around the wrong crowd of friends to sex at a really young age, and it was like the cool thing to be doing.
Yeah.
And but in a very not cool way. And so my experience with what is young, like in terms of like when you like either start talking about having sex or like anything around that happened really early. But I'm like, I don't think that that's the like. Okay, there's two
a right and a wrong way to do that. Yes, I think knowing and being taught like this is how it happens, this is your body is good, but like obviously not a first-hand experience at that age. And I think that's many men and women and everyone in between have had the unfortunate first-hand experience first without much education, and maybe even some education, but like still a first-hand experience, not in a positive way. I was afraid of wieners until I went to college because I just didn't have a good education relationship with sexuality like as a kid. And so like a lot of my friends, that was like prom. Everybody's fucking thing was getting a hotel room. My parents were like, we're not getting you, like, you know, I mean, I went to prom with like, I think my freshman year with a girl, a friend of mine. I went sophomore year with a date, junior year with another friend. Like I was very much like afraid of it in a way based on previous experiences that I had that I did not want to have. So had I been...
Right, the thing is, like, the more you know about it early on and you start to understand like the science behind it, but then also the boundaries behind certain things, and like, hey, like these are not okay things for your age, like, then that is one thing. Like that's one button. Like, okay, when does sex education start? Like, when should we start doing that? And then when is it too young to be, like, then there's that aspect of actually having sexual experiences. Because I personally don't think there's anything wrong with starting kids off young and explaining to them what's going to happen to their bodies or to other people's bodies. There's this super adorable TikTok that you shared, a mom and her son.
He appears to be between the ages of like 5 and 8. I think in the video she has his age, but he's like under 10 for sure. He's a small human.
And she's like, hey, baby, what is a period? And he explains what it is in a very cute way. It's like when I forgot what he said.
When girls bleed out of their
goodies or something like that. Like it was really precious. And then she's like, okay, like when you see that happen to someone, or like if like, do we make fun of them because this is happening? No. Like, what do you do? What do you say? His response was, you let them know that everything's gonna be okay and that this is normal. I was like, okay, yes.
The sweetest thing.
We're doing that right.
The sweetest thing. And there are a lot of people in the comments of like, you should have given the anatomically correct. Another day to talk about people who cannot shut the fuck up and just like let something be.
Yes.
But it was, I mean, the most respectful way, I think, to teach a young child, girl, boy. I mean, I like double loved that she was teaching her son.
Yes.
Because like, I mean, the first time you get your period when you're like, what the fuck is not fun. If you don't know
about it, it's so embarrassing.
People laugh at you, also embarrassing. Like, it just feels like you're in this alone and just having
someone tell you, anybody, girl, boy, and even sometimes I don't think teachers know what to do, and that's a whole other conversation. But having someone tell you, hey, it's okay and this is normal, you're gonna be fine, like bodies do this, and it's like, oh, okay, like starting that off young and instilling that into boys and girls, like I think it's fucking beautiful. That way that like that bullying, that teasing doesn't happen, and then that also like it's just like, okay.
Less pressure. There's not as much fear of like, this is gonna happen. So, okay, like it's just gonna happen. Just like if you have to poop in school and you're like, well, okay, I guess I'm gonna do it here. Instead of waiting until you get home and get sick if you don't poop.
You get constipated. Or like backed up. Or you shit yourself in school.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Also,
but
it happened to me in kindergarten. It was traumatizing.
In terms of that, like, and I can only imagine there are parents out there. I'm not a fucking parent yet, but I do know, like, because I will have children, that is something that will happen at a relatively early age. Because also, my kid isn't going to be in a situation like whether it's like, okay, switching to more serious, like, no, they are going to know what boundaries are, what no is. People should not be touching you in certain places. If like these are things that we can talk about, and the earlier you start doing it in a safe place, like, the easier it is going to be as they get older, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because then hormones happen and shit. And
I mean, yeah, then, you know, you are,
like, I hate you, Alyssa!
But, like,
Anyway.
yeah, I think, like, I don't know what the perfect age is. I'm, again, not a parent, not writing a fucking book, but I think, like, societally, we do have to arm younger people sooner than
Because there are
Then
predators
later.
out there in the world.
Yes.
And if you are not warned, and I know that is
It shouldn't be
scary.
like, okay, 4-year-old, here's your Easter basket. Let's have a talk about pedos.
Right?
You know, like,
But
yeah,
how do you
definitely
have
not
that
saying that.
conversation?
But, you know, being able to phrase it and using cutesier words, like, don't let someone touch your goodies. Like,
so that they will understand. Because I hear people out there use the atomical correct, like, yo, they're not... I don't think it would relate to them as much, or they won't take it in and like have it be serious for them if it's words they don't fucking understand. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, okay, yeah, this is what this called. Like, what's a way that you can make it understandable, fun, and that they will remember,
Yeah.
so that it's not going in one ear and out the other, because also they are young, and like staying on top of that is also probably really important, because their minds, like, they're sponges. Like, so like in terms of like this sexual education aspect for our parents out there in the world, like, at what point did you start talking about sex education with your kids? Like, whether it's, you know, like,
where do babies come from?
Yes.
Proper anatomy versus cutesy anatomy.
when do those conversations, when did they start?
What
for
are
you?
boundaries? Like, I know I've read a lot more of people who are like, I'm not forcing my kids to hug or kiss relatives or strangers if they don't want to. And I think that's really great to be able to say no to the creepy uncle. I mean, you know, not everyone has the creepy uncle, but like, if you don't want someone in your space, I think it's good to teach
Right.
kids, like, you know, this is your bubble, 6 feet for Jesus, or whoever you want it to be for.
'Cause that energy is there, like that
And
like,
kids
that
also can
ickiness.
tell,
Yeah.
like, what makes them uncomfortable and may not have the capacity. I mean, I don't know, like the wherewithal to be like, hey, I don't like this person touching me because of this. They're
Right.
just like, I know. And I mean, yeah, then
And
that's an
getting
issue.
And getting used to that icky feeling early on, like, oh, that's what this feels like, and I don't have to, like, I'm not forced to do that, because then down the line, like, in their brain, it's
What
like,
else will they let?
yes,
because
let happen
the-
because I have been forced to do
Oh, I
it,
know
so
this
it's
feeling, and
okay.
I just have to let it pass.
Right.
Yeah.
Whew, yo, this button has so many sub buttons, so prepare yourself for a part 2, because I want to dive into, okay, like, at what point is it too young to start, you know, doing sexual things? Like, that's a whole other.
When is it okay
makes
to
me
talk to your
sweat.
kids about masturbation?
Oh, yo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So again,
Yo.
parents, if you've already had these conversations, tell us when, why, how. If you haven't, also when, why not. If you plan to, if you don't plan to.
Drop those parenting tips.
Or other people, if you had these conversations early, like, was it good? Was it bad? Was it ugly? Were you traumatized? Are you fine?
Are there conversations you wish would have been had with you earlier? Because my little ass sits in that boat.
Join us.
Yes, please. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to all the things, and we will catch you next